Hey, what's going on? It's your boy Dalton from the Petrol List, and the Australian GP, in my personal opinion, I think it revived the 2024 season for Formula One, and that's because it was unpredictable. By the time you got to, lap 4 or 5, you didn't know exactly how things were going to end. So let's get into it.
Hey, what's going on? It's the Petrol List.
Lap 2, Sainz overtakes Verstappen. I mean, that was one of the rare lead changes in Formula One in the last couple of years, and it looked like a clean overtake. Now, I know Verstappen had to exit the race early. He did not finish because of, brakes. I think that after Sainz overtook him, he took off one of those helmet visor things and he tossed it into to Verstappen's brakes. Like, basically, I think he Mario Karted Verstappen just to make sure he could win. But it looked like a clean overtake, and in the last couple of years, that's kind of something to write home about. Like, a Red Bull car got passed. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm not a Red Bull fan. I'm saying it because I'm a fan of racing, and racing should have overtakes. Otherwise, it's just a commute. So anyway, Verstappen's RB20, he had smoke coming from the right rear brake during lap 4. I don't know what that was about. Hopefully Red Bull figures it out. I prefer all drivers to finish the race and let the best constructor and the best driver win. But I am glad that the Ferrari passed the RB20 before the brakes caught fire. I don't know if there was an effect. I don't know if Verstappen was slower because of the brakes, or if the brake thing happened afterward and was completely unrelated. But the speed of the Ferrari car was pretty remarkable. Lap 17, Lewis Hamilton suffered an engine failure, and the way he exited the car, it's the way you would get out of your car when you get to Home Depot and you're just gonna buy some mulch. You get out, you don't even look back, you just walk into the store, and that was quite unusual, because usually a racing driver, if there's an engine failure, there's screaming, "No, why did this happen?" Lewis Hamilton honestly couldn't care less. And I feel like he probably got to a point where he was just tired of driving this car. I mean, he's got a long season to go in a car that's underperforming. And if I were him, especially after 2 years of this, I would probably just be ready to take a break, stop driving. And I think the first couple of races of the season, it kind of reflects that attitude. I don't think that he's forgotten how to drive. You don't forget how to drive, unless you're Ricardo. We'll get into that later. But you don't just forget how to drive. I think he's just disinterested in the car, and I think he's actually disinterested in Mercedes as a team, as are a lot of people these days, kind of including myself.
So here's the thing about Formula One. The news is always changing. I'm already editing, as you can see. And I think that Lewis Hamilton's performance in the W15 is going to be very spotty this season. Total Wolff is saying that they're going to need to experiment every race, and you know what that means. Yeah, different settings for Hamilton. You heard it here first. Maybe second or third. I don't know. All right.
You had said on Friday that you were experimenting with some things in the car. Is that something we're likely to see throughout the season on Fridays, particularly for Lewis?
I think we are coming to a point now that we probably need to experiment every single race, not only on Friday, because our performance seems to get worse throughout the weekend. We're good on Friday, then we are good in some of the sessions on Saturday, but the more grip we have, the faster it goes, the more we reach the ceiling of the performance ceiling of the car. And our data show us it's not the ceiling.
Perez easily passed George Russell. George Russell didn't get the elbows out. He didn't return fire, so to speak, try to repass him. And it kind of made me wonder, where was the passion for staying ahead that George Russell shows against Hamilton? Where was that with Perez? Maybe the Red Bull car was just so fast that George Russell knew that Perez was just gonna, pass him easily, and he just had to kind of give up the space. Maybe that's the case, but I do feel like he does fight harder against his teammate, and I do think that that's a little bit of a sign of immaturity. We'll get to that a little bit later. By lap 29, Ferrari was first place and second place, and they didn't show any signs of slowing down. McLaren was third place and fourth place, and Red Bull, the remaining Red Bull of Perez, was in fifth place, and you kind of got the feeling that that's how the race was going to end. Now, where was Mercedes? Mercedes it's clearly, I would say, an upper mid-tier team right now. 2022 happened, and then 2023 happened, and you kept thinking to yourself, well, this is a glitch, this is a fluke, Mercedes is gonna be back, they're gonna be fine. But this is 3 years later, and the car is still a dog. And Mercedes effectively doesn't have any drivers. So George Russell, I think he's a good Formula One driver. I don't think he's a top tier driver. I think he can drive fast, but I think he is a little bit of an immature driver. Number one, he hurt his team's points last year by crashing and getting his elbows out at the wrong time. Now, if he's just clearly faster than Lewis Hamilton, that's fine. I've got no problem with the faster driver taking the lead. But there are several times when George Russell wasn't as fast with race pace, and he hampered Mercedes team progress. Mick Schumacher, I don't think he has, it's either the skill or the drive. He's missing one of those two things, but I don't think he's ready for prime time. Will he ever be ready for prime time? Not quite sure. And then we've got Lewis Hamilton, who I think in spirit is already in that Ferrari car. I don't think he has any interest left in driving for Mercedes. Now, Ferrari, on the other hand, the car is getting faster, and they've got Leclerc, they've got Lewis Hamilton chomping at the bit, waiting for 2025. They've got Sainz, who I think is one of the best drivers on the grid right now. He's driving brilliantly, and people talk about him not being the quickest driver around the track. I don't personally understand that. He's quick, he's got race pace, and he makes great decisions. And then they've got Bierman, who's waiting for a seat at Haas, or maybe I don't know how he would get to Ferrari before Lewis Hamilton retires. I don't think that's going to happen. But say Hamilton stays at Ferrari for a couple of years, Bierman goes over to Haas and then goes over to Ferrari after Lewis Hamilton is done. Now, this is kind of a reason why I think that Formula One should have let Andretti Racing come in, because there's enough room for drivers. There's enough room for another team on the grid. They're just physically, there's enough room. And I think, fan-wise, Americans are really getting into Formula One now, and I think they would love to see an Andretti Cadillac team come in. And you've got Liam Lawson, you've got Oliver Bierman, you've got Sainz, who's looking for work. You've got enough drivers and people who would be fans of those drivers to, kind of spread the love, spread the money, spread the marketability to another team. I don't think that would be a problem. The McLarens are getting faster. Norris is Mr. Consistent, and Piastri is clearly an up-and-comer. And Piastri is very cool-headed. He's got the maturity, to do the driver position swap. I'm sure he wasn't happy about that, but due to McLaren's team strategy, Norris had fresher tires. I think it was fresher by 5 laps. They said swap positions. Piastri pulled over, or not pulled over, but moved over for Norris to take position. No harm, no foul. And I think Piastri is wise enough to kind of market himself as a good teammate and a fast driver. And I think any team on the grid would be lucky to have him. And I think that that's a smart move. And I think eventually Piastri is going to be a lead driver for one of the teams. Is it steak? Is it sober? What are we calling them? Anyway, the green team. The green team, they had a terrible time. Their pit stops. I've gotten gas at gas stations faster than they were able to do their pit stops. Perez was driving extremely well. So well, in fact, that Christian Horner paid him a compliment. It came out after the race that he lost downforce early on, and he still was able to hold on to 5th place. The rumor has it that his contract for next year is secure. You know, if Checo is going to stay at Red Bull, where does that leave Sainz? If Audi comes in, takes over, or when Audi comes in and takes over the green team, will Audi have enough je ne sais quoi, enough something to elevate that team to make it a team that is worthy of Sainz driving for them? I'm hearing that Ricciardo has 2 weeks to improve. I don't know what has happened to Ricciardo's driving, but Tsunoda clearly hates the guy. I don't know if he hates the guy. He doesn't like him. He doesn't like him. And Tsunoda finished 8th. Ricciardo finished 13th. And he got help by the green team. If they didn't have such a crappy performance, I'm sure that Ricciardo would have gotten 15th, maybe 16th on the grid yesterday. So I'm rooting for him. I'm hoping that that he picks up the pace. I'd like to see him stay on the grid, but ultimately, if there are better drivers who are waiting in the wings, they do deserve the seat, because I personally do want Formula One to be the most competitive racing that it can be, and I don't know if that'll be the case with Ricciardo, unfortunately. All right. Logan Sargent gave up his car for Albon to get 12th. I would be bitter about that. And lastly, Alpine, they're the new Haas. Haas got points yesterday. They actually looked like a proper mid-tier team, and Alpine has, they've definitely fallen from grace. So that was Australia. It's given me a little bit of hope for the 2024 season. I think Red Bull's still gonna win, but there's a possibility that 2024 is at least entertaining. Okay, I think that's it. No race next week, but maybe, just maybe, I'll have something cool, kind of related to the location of where I'm at. We'll see. We'll see if I can get it done. And I will see you next week. I'm out.